Now, here's your hosts, the League Dad, Kevin, Mitchell, and Alastair.
What's up, gamers, and welcome to another episode of the All In Podcast. I am the League Dad, and as always, I'm joined by my co-hosts. We've got Kevin, Mitchell, and Alastair, and as you can tell, Kevin has got a little bit of a different setup. He is on the East Coast right now visiting some fam, but glad he could squeeze in some time to get this podcast in because we got to talk about MSI. It is upon us. Play-ins are about to start, and so our first international tournament of the year, very exciting stuff. So if you don't know already, I just want to really briefly just list the teams that are there so that you can get caught up to speed if you don't know it. So it's BLG from China. We have R7 from Latin America. We have Golden Guardians, our beloved Golden Guardians from North America. GAN from Vietnam. G2 from LEC. We've got LLL, Loud from Brazil. PSG from the PCS, and DFM from the Japan League. So those are the teams. I kind of want to start real quickly just mentioning G2 because there's been a lot of kind of like people are kind of like, well, that doesn't really make sense since they didn't win this most recent split, but they're in because they won their first split. If you remember, they've kind of had two splits already. And so people are debating whether or not that should actually be the case. On one hand, it's like, yes, they won, so you want that first split to count for something. But on the other hand, since they didn't win in the most recent meta, it's kind of like, are they sending the best representatives from their region? And so opening thoughts on that, just we'll dive into G2 real quick since we're already there, and then we'll move on to the other teams. But what do you guys think about that debate, and where do you land on it?
Yeah, what I think about that debate is it's not a perfect system, but spring needs to matter, right? Or winter needs to matter. And it is a way worse to watch a league where it doesn't qualify for you for anything, right? So until they get to 3 international tournaments, if that's the reality next year, this is the best solution. Do you know Korea used to seed their first seed during the regular season into the finals? And so the teams that went to Worlds, like they could have not won a single best of 5 that whole half of the year. They could have been only good 3 patches ago, but they always went. And it didn't matter for them. But I'm just saying, like, there have been worse systems. This is fine. G2 wasn't even terrible. They just got outplayed.
Yeah, I agree with Kevin. I think obviously it's not perfect, but if it needs to matter somehow, like you said. So I'm fine with it. And G2 is also just a staple team. They generally show up no matter what for the most part. So
yeah, I think it's a very complicated thing to like make it always work out because they did it off of championship points. So I believe like G2, they placed just high enough in the regular season so that they guaranteed themselves a spot in MSI. Like if they were to not make it to playoffs in the spring split, I don't think they're guaranteed to make it to MSI. So they had to do additional things besides just win last split. So I think when you combine all those things, you can shift it here and there and it still makes sense. And then if you look at just like the situation just this year, they went to 5 games against Mad Lions, and it was a close 5 games, and then Mad Lions ended up winning the whole thing. So even though like that situation didn't necessarily play out in determining whether they make the MSI seed, I still think it doesn't feel that bad, right? Because that could have easily been the finals right there, or the series right before the finals. 5 games against the team that ended up winning the whole thing, right? So I'm okay with it. They obviously look a lot worse here than they did last split. But I'm still expecting them to show up, so could be worse.
Yeah, and I guess in this situation in particular, it's not so bad because, like you said, like it's not like they didn't make plays. It's not like they were absolute garbage. But
yeah,
I'm thinking in the extreme situation, like hypothetical, like what if there was a team, in the LEC that for some reason just collapsed in spring? And like you said, they have to make championship points, so they have to at least maybe make playoffs or whatever, accumulate a certain amount of wins. But, I'm trying to think of situations where maybe that's not ideal. And for me, like, I do agree. Like, I like the system because especially if you're an LEC fan, obviously more games that matter, the better. I'm trying to think of if I'm in that region though, like, do those two teams like best represent me? Because, again, like they didn't finish in the top 2. Yes, they took Mad Lions to the top, but I don't know. For me, I'm still a little bit torn with that. Something does have to count, so I guess it's imperfect. But I think for me, I'm a little more on that fence. I don't have a solution, so I'm not going to try to speculate here. But To me, I think there hopefully will be a better solution to kind of alleviate
Yeah,
some of that stressor.
it's 3 international tournaments. Kevin already mentioned it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's the real
exactly.
solution.
There we go. Yeah,
And
let's
we
just
won't have
make
no
everybody
problem.
happy.
They
Yeah,
don't best represent the teams. Like, BDS is probably the better team at
right,
this
right.
moment, but
Yeah.
like they deserve to go. That's the
Yeah,
difference.
yeah. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Okay, well, let's just dive into Group A. Take a look at the teams, take a look at the matchups. This starts, May 2nd. So it's BLG against R7 in the first round, poor R7. And then it's Golden Guardians against GAM, which again, like GAM is no sleeper team. Like I'm
No, they're
always worried
not.
about them. So let's start with the top part with BLG and R7. Is this going to be a clear stomp? Like, does R7 even have a chance? Hey, but look, they're in there. At
Ugh.
least they get to play at least 3 games, right? So, thoughts on that matchup and those teams.
This is I can't believe this was even a matchup. Like it doesn't make any sense. This is the most lopsided matchup we've seen in a long time at an international tournament. In terms on paper, right? Just because BLG versus R7. Like RNG probably also stomped teams the same way, but this it just feels unfair for them. R7, I watched their finals. They're okay. They're
Yeah.
not much better than before. I think there are a lot of new names that weren't on last year's R7. I don't recognize all of these names at least, but they didn't show enough in that finals to like really get a read on them. So they're gonna get stopped. They will get to. There is a loser bracket though, so they're not out.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna be fairly one-sided, and they don't even get to play 3 games most likely because it's a best of 3.
Oh, it's best of 3. That's right. You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I really don't expect much. Um, Unfortunately for R7, I think they're kind of just. I think the whole series game time is gonna be under an hour, so
Yeah,
yeah.
it's gonna be a quick one. Yeah, I fully expect, I mean, BLG to be styling on them, completely run over them, and have some happy moments, maybe like die a little bit, but it should be a quick 2-0. I think R7, if you want to hope for them, they'll take a game off because BLG will underestimate them and not prepare as much. And R7, you can win 1 game off of a cheese strat, right? I think if this is a best of 1, they have higher chances, but it's a best of 3. There's no way they can take 2 games over BLG. But something that we've noticed throughout League of Legends as like time has developed is teams that play more games, they improve
It's
over
true. Yeah.
time. So they're definitely going to get stomped by BLG, but they can go into the lower bracket and they can find some magic, find some spark, find their footing in the meta, and they can still do something. Like you said, they have a lot of new players, so they're untested. New players can do anything. There's no limit to them. There's no expectation on them. Um, but yeah, that's just a massive hopium right there. So yeah, that's all
Yeah.
I got for them.
Seriously. So correct me if I'm wrong. It's 3 teams make it out of the group. Is that correct? Yeah. So
Correct.
it's the top 2, and then the winner of the losers bracket goes on, right?
Yep, because
So
T1 is already
yeah.
in. Yeah.
Okay, so they're already in. So let's go to Golden Guardians and GAM because I got a question to revisit. But let's talk about Golden Guardians and GAM because GAM again is a team that has had some wild moments in MSI international tournaments, busting out the weird drafts, and really just I think have become fan favorites over the years. Always, wondering if there's going to be a surprise. Levi's been a long staple there. But what are your thoughts? Do our boys? I would like to think they have a chance, but again, I never want to underestimate this team. So, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
I want to underestimate this team. I think that last year at Worlds they were bad. No one talked about them, guys. They didn't do anything. They went 1-5. I watched their finals. Levi didn't look that good um, compared to his domestic opponent, so that could mean they've leveled up. But like they just looked like fine. They won, but I think at the very least you just should win. Will it look convincing? Probably not. It's probably going to be like a 2-1 win, and we should win this though. We're favored for sure.
I
Yes.
definitely agree. I kind of have a hard time at the moment. Like, I know GAM's obviously like fan favorites and everything, but we have to remember that until last year we hadn't seen Vietnam internationally for over 2 years.
That's true.
So it's
Yeah.
really hard to like keep up that street cred of like, oh yeah, we're the king of upsets, but like we haven't seen you, and then the year after you come back, you just like you just don't look good at all. So I I'm hoping it's more interesting, but I actually don't expect too much. maybe they pull one game, but I don't think they're gonna like hard stomp Golden Guardians with some cheese thing. I think from what we saw, at least from Golden Guardians compared to I did actually watch Gambit's finals. It's just like it. I don't think it's gonna be much. I don't think it's gonna be much more difficult.
Yeah, I think Gam, they're gonna be pulling out some cheese strats. I mean, their one win last year at Worlds was against Top Esports, and it was a cheese strat, right? They did some weird Karthus strat. Um, so this year, I expect them to do some weird cheesy strat. I expect them to maybe get an advantage for them in like the early game or something, and then Golden Guardians will be able to hold on. Like their team fighting will be clean enough to pull it through. Um, yeah, I think Golden Guardians. It should be a 2-0. I think if it's a 2-1, it should be pretty disappointing for Golden Guardians, and it means they got taken by surprise. But if Golden Guardians just play seriously, like it should be a 2-0, and they should stomp them in the early game hard in laning phase.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the real question then. Does Golden Guardians have a chance against BLG? I mean, this is what we're expecting, right? Because we're both
Yeah.
expecting them to be the winners, but that's kind of where we wanna see. Now, is there any advantage for whoever wins the top two match? I mean, because they both make it. Is it just seeding or something like that when it comes to like, is there any actual advantage to winning that?
Do you mean compared to the loser bracket last chance qualifier?
Yeah, because the losers bracket obviously makes it in. The winners bracket, both of them are in, but is there an actual advantage if you win that winners bracket? So that's what I'm wondering.
I think there is seeding, right? Yeah, you'll get
Okay.
seeded either versus depending on the number 1 or number 2 seeds from
Yeah.
the top region. Yeah, I think there
Okay.
is an advantage. I don't think it's super clear cut. And if it is, I didn't pay attention enough in
Yeah,
class. So
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, there might be seeding, but like in some situations, it's like, oh, I got T1 instead of Gen G.
Yeah, I know,
So-
right?
Yeah,
It's like
that'll be it.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, if it's a world where you can get a Mad Lions or Cloud9, maybe that's better, right? But there are 3 like monsters in the top bracket that it does not matter.
right.
Yep.
So do you think that we can even take a game off of BLG? That's the question, because a game to me is a win. I mean, it is a win obviously, but in the
Literally.
yeah, in the like hopium sense, it's a win, like big time.
I think we can take a win. No, go ahead.
I think BLG is pretty terrifying. Their best player is either Elk or Bin,
Yeah.
and that pretty much just screws over a lot of Golden Guardians, right? Because
Okay.
Bin will just be better than Licorice, right? And then Elk being better than 6-8 means their win con is in trouble as well. Gory probably can match up to Yagao in lane, but Yagao's like team play is better, and so the only strength I think we have is like River is better than Shun, probably, at least in some ways, and Huhi and On, I think they're both nondescript. So I don't even know. I don't think we can take a game. Honestly, I don't think it's gonna be great.
Hey, it's fair
But
enough.
we might get good. Like we might get close. Like Golden Guardians is good at scrapping, but the problem is their strengths as like a team. With all the scrapping they did and their ability to win early game. How is that going to match up against an LPL team that just fights like monkeys? Like
Yeah.
they could win the coin flip, right? If it's at level 2, level 1, they win the coin flip, they win the game. But no, at best, if we get a game, I agree, it's a win. we take the real dub.
Honestly, I don't think Golden Guardians has a chance of beating BLG just because from what we watched at finals with Golden Guardians, their first 5-10 minutes is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
But they are not very good holding that lead. They're very susceptible to throwing it. And I think BLG and pretty much any like Eastern team will even if they do fall victim to the Golden Guardians early game, which I think the Golden Guardians will just have a much harder time abusing that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they'll definitely find those windows to just like abuse them and come back into the game. Like I mean, we saw Cloud9 do it in game 1 of finals, I believe. So
Yeah.
I don't think we take a game. If we do, that would be big. I would expect we probably get a lead at least in one of them, but win, I'm not convinced.
I think we can take a win.
Let's go. Come on. Yeah.
I think BLG. Okay, it's only because I think BLG will hard underestimate Golden Guardians. That's my guess. Like they're like BLG seems to be like Bin, especially as a player, and maybe Yagao even a bit too. Like they seem like players that will underestimate their opponent and just kind of be like, woo, laps daisy, like whatever, just pick me, anything, we win, it doesn't matter, right? So I think it's possible, right? I think they can get a little overzealous maybe, and I don't know, lose. I mean, this is some mad copium, like holy crap, mad copium. Um, but I think if Golden Guardians like prepares super hard and comes up with an interesting strat. Maybe they jump on the meta earlier, because one of their struggles throughout playoffs was they didn't know what the meta was and they didn't know how they fit in the meta for a long ass time. But if they're in MSI prep and it is going well and they have a lot of confidence, BLG can come in with a slightly poor meta read. Golden Guardians can come in with a strong meta read, and yeah, that can take you a game even if there's a massive skill gap. But that's I just want to be just a little ray of sunshine.
I'm
We can
with
do
it,
it,
man.
guys.
I believe, man. This is the
Yeah.
time for this is the season for the most hopium, and I'm with it.
I'm down for one win.
Heck yeah.
We'll still
Okay,
get
then
2-1, but it's okay.
the last question then is, who makes it out? Is it R7 or GAM? My first instinct is GAM again, but it's not
It's only 3 teams, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
So it's going to be probably G2, BLG, and Golden Guardians.
G2 is not. Oh wait.
G2's
Oh,
in play-ins. Yeah.
Yeah, they're on
okay.
the other side of the bracket.
Oh, and then on this other. That's right. Okay. Yep. My
Yeah,
bad.
I
Okay.
think the
So let's
bracket's
go.
off
Let's
the
go to
play-ins.
that. Let's go to that bracket then. G2. So in this bracket is G2, Loud Gaming, PSG, DFM. So it's G2 against Loud. Again, even though G2 may not have won the split, they're still a strong team comparing to the Brazilian team. Loud had some funny moments sometimes. Again, lots of really cool fans, really good personality. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the flexing. I mean, I love that stuff, right? Like that was really cool to see. So I think it'll be entertaining either way. But realistically, do you guys think that Loud Gaming has a chance against G2?
Do they have a chance to win series? No. Are they going to take a game? Probably. I mean, the history of G2 in Europe versus the Brazilian team, even when they weren't good. Like, I actually think recently Brazil's been pretty good. Like, they've been, like, punching above their weight. They beat Fnatic last year in play-ins. They went 3-2. They almost topped the group. Like, it was pretty ridiculous if you really think about it. I think they're pretty legit, and they have more time together. G2 is the weakest they've ever looked, like, in an international event. So, in my mind, it is possible. Can they pull it out all 3 games? Probably still no, but I think they will make it close and they'll probably take a game. So I wouldn't underestimate Loud anymore. They looked they looked legit last year in macro, which is unusual to think about.
I would agree. I mean, I'd probably still say 2-0 for G2. Which is also best case because we don't want realistic as NA fans, we don't want Loud beating G2.
Yeah.
Because I don't trust Golden Guardians to beat G2 to make it out of play-ins. So
Good point.
Fair enough. Yep. Yeah, they'll have to fight in the lower bracket. Yeah. Yep. I think G2 is probably gonna take it. We are in the craps era, if we're being honest. It's a bit of a craps era. Mickey X is a bit of like, I don't know. He's not playing super well either. I think Broken Blade is playing the same, but it's always been underwhelming. And you have Yike, right? It's his first international tournament ever. So I think there are some things to be a little afraid for G2, but this is not the power level that should challenge G2, right? Like we're talking G2 is probably going to choke when it comes to a bit more like harder matchups. When in the past, right, they could be maybe even considered favorites. But this year, I think Loud is just not enough firepower for G2 to really be pushed. So I expect a 2-0. If it's a 2-1, then we can be a little like, oh, G2 looking a little rough this year. But I don't think Loud will be able to take it. But it is a good point from Kevin that this region is improving. It's Brazilian region, right? This region is popping off, right? They got better viewership than LCS. They have a huge fan base. They have like, I don't know, just amazing energy and vibes. Like, I think something that can be underestimated is a lot of people are against G2, just like the social energy, the vibe and everything of the world. And it's fun to root for an underdog, and it's fun to see Loud Gaming and Brazilian fans hyped about their teams. So G2 gets it in their head, I mean, Loud could upset.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Brazil's on the up and up, and all it takes is just one moment in their history. All it takes is one moment in their career to be like, we were a bad team, we were considered a minor region, to now we're a good team. Now we're no longer considered a free win, right? That
Yeah.
could happen at any time, and it's becoming more and more likely as time goes on.
Yeah, happened to Golden Guardians. Also, Europe has a little nerf this tournament in general because they have the least time to prep. Their finals was like a week and a half ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was on a patch from like a two
It was
patches
like
ago. Yeah.
13.6 or 5 was their playoff patch, and then
Yep.
it's 13.8, so they're way behind.
Yeah.
Yep. That is a bit of a nerf too. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and imagine if Loud, does make an impact, maybe not necessarily win, but let's say they do well. The thing with this region is, yeah, popularity is a big thing. There's already a couple of Koreans on this team, but imagine if like the money starts to flow through that region, like it could really start to pop off and attract talent from outside that region. And if their fans support their imports like they support their native talent, like it could be very exciting and really incentivize people to go there, because sometimes LCS can be a downer region and people just like cannot treat the players well, or not be as excited as they are over there. So again, just theorizing, just hypothetical, but if they do well, I could see them attracting other players to come over there, especially if they start to make more moolah. So winning will help attract more moolah, and they can get some more talent there. But let's go to PSG versus DFM. To me, I think this might be an interesting matchup. I think both teams, just on paper and just kind of from what I've seen, kind of seem to be on the same boat. So I'd like to get your thoughts on this. I'm really interested to see this matchup, because so far we've kind of had more or less one-sided matchups, or favorites and underdogs kind of thing. But this one I feel like is maybe a little more evenly matched. So what are your thoughts on the PSG DFM matchup?
Yeah, so for people who haven't been following, DFN replaced Evie went to Europe to
Mm-hmm.
Heretics. So they got someone new. I don't really know how to say names, like Toll 2 or something. We'll see what that actually, maybe it's 2 exclamation mark 2. I don't know what that is. And then the more important thing is Arya came back because he didn't have a
Mm-hmm.
good time on KT, but like this guy was the reason they were actually able to make upsets in 2021 Worlds. The guy is legit and he has a lot of firepower, and for once PSG is actually lacking in terms of name brands, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've lost everyone basically that I recognize, except the one thing that could make the huge difference is Junja. He was
Just
Yeah.
yeah.
EDG's starting jungler for a long time. I'm pretty sure it's the same.
Yeah.
If it's the same guy, I remember. And
Mm-hmm.
this guy is good. He was. I mean, he was good enough to start for the EDG that has had him and JJ sharing time with each other. This guy was good up until it mattered. Then he wasn't that good,
Mm.
which is why they subbed him out. But he's been smurfing it in their region. I don't know the other names on the team. I watched their finals. They beat. I don't even remember who they beat, but it was like it's like FAC or something. They weren't that good, honestly. So I think DFM has a legitimate chance with Arya back, but I don't know how good their top laner is. It was hard to assess through just watching their match. So
Mm.
it's gonna be close. PSG has always been good though, better than the other regions. So I still favor them slightly, but I want to go for the upset. So I'll say 2-1 for DFM.
Spicy.
I'm actually in the same boat as Kevin.
Hmm.
Just because PSG didn't look very good previously, and at least like last at Worlds, I believe they did pretty poorly as compared to the usual. And I mean, their two biggest factors were Maple and River.
Yep.
We have them now.
Yay, we
I
stole them.
Yeah.
and I mean, but because Philippines has like a very small player base, at least in comparison to a lot of other regions, the odds that they found someone or two people to replace that are at the same caliber, I think is fairly low. I would love to be proved wrong, but I would lean towards DFM.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go PSG Talon. Junjia is actually pretty cracked. It's really tough, right? Because these are both regions that are very different, and they're they have historical, like their quality of the region is so far below that they're their best team that it's always super hard to judge. So I think both of these teams are like a solid step above their individual regions. So I'm going a bit off of name value of PSG Talon. I'm not really sure, but I do think Junjia is pretty solid, pretty cracked, and he's a guy that has a chip on his shoulder. He's gonna want to really prove himself. He doesn't have a lot of exposure in international tournaments. I mean, so I am hoping that this guy shows up, proves, hey, you shouldn't have replaced me. I could have won Worlds also on EDG. Probably not, but I'm excited for this team. Also, just to give a little disparity in the votes, I'll go PSG Talon 2-1. But this series should be hype. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be back and forth, and I think we'll see some interesting drafts for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all the teams. But one more time, just to confirm and lock it in, what are the 3 teams that are making it out? Let's just lock that in.
Yeah. So I agree. I agree that it's got to be BLG, it's got to be G2, and I think when we get down to the lower bracket, Golden Guardians is the best team out of the remaining
Right.
3 competitors, right? That will be all doing the lower bracket. So yeah, those 3.
Okay.
I would agree. Mad Lions went straight into bracket stage, so I don't think there's much chance of an upset.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's the top 3 major seeds.
Okay.
I think BLG and G2 are pretty done deal. It's just seems like a pretty easy way to qualify. Golden Guardians is obviously going to be tougher. They'll probably go into the lower bracket and they'll have to fight their way out. That they are a better team. They're the best team that is going to be in the lower bracket. Their only problem is it's international tournament. It's going to be a lot of pressure. It's going to be a lot of expectations. Everyone's expecting them to make it out. Some teams and players fumble under that pressure, and that's going to be the only thing they have to be careful about, right? Like, God, I love River as a player. I think he's super awesome, and he's the linchpin for Golden Guardians. But if you remember, Game 1 in the finals, Golden Guardians had a massive lead. They were snowballing like crazy. They lose one fight, and then he just starts whiffing Sejuani ultis while he's taking Raptor camps, right? He's just kind of getting caught doing random stuff. So their players have a tendency to have, like, their main weakness is their mentality. So I think if Golden Guardians can keep their mental strong, then yeah, they're for sure gonna make it through. But it's always the thing you're mentioning earlier, League Dad, where it's like we're not so nice to our players sometimes.
That's right. Yeah. And my thing is, like, of course I agree that Golden Guardians is the best team in the lower part of those teams. But I am also worried sometimes because it's NA, baby. Like, sometimes we flop against teams that we shouldn't flop against, right? Like, it's happened time and time again. Again, I'm gonna try to suppress those feelings of worry and doubt and just say logically, yes, Golden Guardian gets that 3rd spot. So that's what I'm sticking to.
Yeah. Okay. To clarify, PCS is Taiwan and Hong Kong, and for their region, Jinja's probably the best jungler in the whole play-in stage. Like, maybe he's worse than BLG's jungler, but who's Shun? But I don't know. Shun's not that great sometimes, but he's better than River, which is actually the one strength that I think Golden Guardians has over all the other teams. Like, I think River's probably equal to Yike or better. I'm not that convinced Yike is going to show up internationally, but I'd like to be proven wrong there. And then Levi, I think he's seen better days. So we normally would have that advantage over every other team, but we could just straight get boomed by PSG because they have all these no names or new names, right? And we don't know how good they are. And the number 1 Taiwan team has historically done pretty well against not just us, just like other good teams.
Yeah, and especially European teams. So if G2 does fall down, maybe PSG can take them out for us, please.
Yeah.
I will say though, if you're worried about like Golden Guardians and your belief and how you should feel, they got 2 CLG players. You're allowed to doubt them. It's actually okay to doubt Golden Guardians. It's fine. They'll take that energy and they'll just, take it all the way. I think their entire playoffs run, they're being doubted, right? Nobody thought they were going to beat FlyQuest. Actually, some people thought they were going to beat FlyQuest, but like nobody thought they were going to beat EG, right? And they 3-0'd them. A lot of people were doubters about the FlyQuest series. A lot of people thought they were going to get 3-0 stomped against Cloud9. They did not at all. So, I think it's okay to doubt them. It's fine.
Right.
Fans out there,
I'm actually worried that we all voted for them.
Yeah, you're right.
I was like, but should we be doing this?
But no, there's only 2 XCLGs, so right? So it's not all counter logic. It's
Yeah, it's okay.
it's okay,
That's
Kevin.
We
We're
can do
okay.
whatever we want. It's fine, guys. It
I'm
works out.
really stressed out, man. Play-ins is
Okay.
the most stressful part of the tournament.
Yeah, it is.
As
Yeah, it's gonna be a
yeah,
lot of games though, so that's cool.
Azale did say when we interviewed him last time that as long as Golden Guardians make it out of play-ins, then we should be proud of them as a team.
Yep.
Heck
That
yeah.
is just, that's just the bar that you have to jump over. And I think they can make it. I think they can do it. And I think they know themselves that, hey, if we qualify to the main stage, like, we were successful. We did a good job internationally. And I think that everything after that, right, any upset they can create in the main stage is just a cherry on the top. So I'm
Mhm.
hopeful for these guys. I'm hopeful for this org. Like, this is just a huge momentous moment for this team, for these
Mhm.
players. And we should be happy for them. We should congratulate them no matter what happens.
For sure. Okay, well, it's been a while, but let's talk possible meta, right? For MSI, we haven't seen anything yet, so it's all just speculation. But what do you guys have any thoughts on what we could see? Who knows what they're cooking up behind the scenes? But I know Mitchell, you always got stuff you're thinking of and what might happen. Kevin, Alastair. All right, so let's start there. Like, what do you guys think we might see in this play-in stage? As far as meta goes, anything new you think, or are we just going to see much of the same?
I do want to mention one thing before we go. Yuumi and Milio are both disabled,
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
so no one complaining about Yuumi and Milio.
I don't think anybody was. Yeah.
No one's upset about that. If they're disabling it, they just disable it for ever. So
Yeah, I'm down for that one. Disable that forever.
I'm getting more and more on board with it. All these nerfs, and he's still really hard to play against.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my 2 stars for this patch that we'll see in plans, which some of these regions just don't have any experience with, are I think ASOL will still be very good. I think that the teams that can play him will probably smurf on him, and I think Cosmic Drive's rework or chain, yeah, like mini rework is actually quite broken. There are certain
Yeah.
characters that can abuse it, and if they play those characters, it's going to look really, really hilariously strong.
I'll be honest, I don't think we will see Aurelion Sol. I think the champ's pretty dead in high elo in the first place, let alone
Okay.
pro play. So I actually think he's good in low elo and like mid elo. I don't like high elo. His win rate is just not very good because games don't go long enough and there's way too much fighting, and especially because I think one of the highest prio junglers is going to be Maokai, who wants to make fights happen. Aurelion Sol's not what you want to play
Mhm.
with or against him. As for, I'll just go to bot lane just because that's kind of my bread and butter. We'll see obviously a lot of Jinx. We'll probably see
Oh, yeah.
Zeri because it's Zeri.
Daggone it.
Probably a lot of Varus as well because again it's Varus.
Yep.
And Aphelios because he's always relevant in competitive or like high elo competitive. So
Yeah, I think for bot lane, that's pretty much what I was gonna say. I think Jinx, something to comment about Jinx is she had an insanely high win rate in playoffs for everybody in the finals. I think for LPL, she had a 100% win rate in the finals, and then for LCK, I think she also had a 100% win rate in the finals when she got picked. And then it was not played at all in LCS finals, but it still saw some decent numbers in LEC too. So Jinx is going to be extremely high prio. Unfortunately for jungle meta, we're probably going to be stuck with, Maokai, Sejuani, Wukong, and Vi. I think that the most teams and most players are just they all got nerfed a tiny bit, but like they're just so powerful. Teams are so good at using them. They're so versatile. Their builds are strong, and every team has so much practice on it, right? So I think these four are going to be very high staple junglers. Some other junglers that we might see, obviously Yike could play Belveth. We could see some teams play some J4, even though he did just get nerfed. And I think there is a chance that we see some Kha'Zix. He's quite strong if you can get him to level 6 with Q Evolve, but you have to go into like a hard skirmishing dueling sort of play style. We might see some Nidalee, right? If we see some really hard early game strats. Renekton Nidalee is still a possibility. Yeah, but otherwise, unfortunately, the jungle meta is going to stay fairly the same. Lastly, Lilia, right? I think she got some pretty big buffs individually, and the Cosmic Drive buff is very strong for her. But Lilia is just hard to make do because she doesn't have any pre-6 like presence. She's just all about farming and fast clearing and like counter jungling and counter ganking. She doesn't actually make ganks happen. And then Xin Zhao, actually, it's kind of funny, but we might actually see Xin Zhao, even though we were all talking shit about Xin Zhao for most of playoffs. I actually think we might see him if enough junglers get banned. He's just got early prio. A lot of junglers got nerfed. It's just he might sneak his way in, and then Lee Sin will obviously, make an appearance because people love Lee Sin, right? So,
Yeah.
That's kind of my jungle takeaway.
There's a
Okay.
couple
Alistair,
else. I'm sorry.
Do you think Janna's gonna be played after the change to her shield?
Yes, for two reasons. One, I think she's a lot stronger, and overall support. I forgot to mention. I think we will definitely be seeing Leona. She feels very strong, very
Her
very
buff was
tanky.
yeah.
So we're definitely going to see Thresh and Janna because Leona's going to be high prio in my opinion.
Makes sense.
I also think, especially from the minor regions, we're going to see Diana Yasuo,
Mhm.
almost for sure, or Gragas Yasuo, probably Gragas Yasuo because Gragas is like giga broken right now.
Yep.
Can be played in 4 roles. Last one I want to mention, I think we'll definitely see Senna TK, especially from a team
I was
like
gonna mention that,
G2.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
I think-
Senna has been pretty strong, so I could definitely see that. Another, this isn't really like a champion specific pick, but I think perhaps maybe we might see more mid roamer style champions. I know this is so. The reason I'm saying this is just because Caps has apparently been spamming like Nautilus mid, and this was a thing that happened before with what was it, FPX?
Yeah,
Doing B, yeah, right. So especially into some of these melee matchups, that we've been seeing mid, right? So again, you want early skirmishes. You've got a Nautilus, and you can still go Roa, so you're not super tanky, but you got some beef in there. And he does a pretty good amount of damage with his Emax. And so, I don't think, again, I don't think this is going to be like meta defining, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's like, one of those throw a wrench in the plan type games, in certain matchups and certain comps, like, possibly see something like that.
Yeah, G2 is definitely the team that's going to make that happen. I mean, Caps has just slowly been transforming into Doinby. Like, even if
Yeah.
you think about Winter Split, he was playing Kled, Sejuani, and Malphite mid, right?
Mhm.
That was last split for them. And in this split too, he was doing the same stuff. Sejuani, Malphite, Kled, Nautilus too, maybe in solo queue. So I definitely think, we're going to get a lot more of that play style. Some other picks that I want to mention for sure. Rel, I think we're going to see some Rel. Like Hillisang, for example, he does not care how bad the matchup is. He doesn't care. He's just gonna pick it because he just wants to be able to go in and make it engage. So Rel's one of those just super hard engaged champions. I also think Hillisang is gonna pull out the Pike. Maybe Mickey X pulls out the Pike as well. So these are gonna be some fun roaming, hard engage volatile champions. Something that I'm surprised is we didn't see in playoffs, but maybe we should be seeing is Pantheon mid. I think that champion is completely unbalanced right now, super turbo broken. His early game is obviously just redonkulous, and he scales pretty darn well now. Like this version of Pantheon, it doesn't like, oh, it's 15, 20 minutes, he
Mhm.
falls off. No, this champion one shots you 30 minutes into the game. So Pantheon mid, I think, is really strong, but maybe it's just more of a solo queue thing. I don't know. Usually finds its way to pro though.
yeah, I did also want to mention Rumble and Kennen. Just some honorable mentions there. And Rumble's super strong, and especially if we're gonna be playing in metas where there's something like a Rel or a Leona as engage.
Yeah.
Especially because Rumble can also jungle right now. I don't know if that's gonna make its way into pro. But I think his clear is pretty decent at the moment. So maybe a Rumble Pantheon would be kind
Ooh,
of
yeah.
disgusting.
I see.
Don't want to play mid lane against that.
I know, right?
I don't want to
Holy
play
shit.
against
I don't
that.
want my bot
period.
lane against that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll probably
that's
also
funny.
see some Galio Lissandra as well, especially
Yeah.
from Korean and Chinese teams.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like it's funny because like all of these champions, like especially the newer ones that you mentioned, I'd love to see it. I'm gonna be so mad if it just goes back to like just the same champs over and over that we see again. Now, do you guys think it's officially like we're officially done with like Heimer support and like Ash, I
Oh,
know
no.
Ash support got really nerfed hard, but do you think we could see any type of ADC support or anything like that?
I don't think it'll be very abundant. We might see them pull it out just when it makes sense in their
Right.
draft, right? Like if they want to go for something poke heavy, maybe Ash still works, but I don't think it. Throughout playoff finals, most of the teams stop playing stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that could also just be the playstyles. Like the teams that abuse that shit just weren't as even like Carry wasn't playing it. So I feel
Yeah.
like it's more dead, but it's still like something in the back pocket when it makes sense in the draft for like
That's what makes it interesting, though. I think too, is because you forget about that because there are so many support champs that got buffed. Like I really think that role, that pick could turn some games around, or just in draft. But yeah,
Yep.
I definitely think we're gonna see more of this like BS support. Um, Ash, I'm pretty sure is done
yeah,
for. I don't
Yeah.
think that's happening. I certainly think we're gonna see Heimerdinger.
Yep. I think so too.
I think that's pretty much a given. I don't think that's ever going anywhere until they actually address the support role as a whole. Because support is just or Heimerdinger is just turning into another refugee champion like
hmm
Xerath, Ilkaz, Brand, Zyra. Where it's gonna get to the point where no one plays them in solo lanes. He's only played support just because you can just avoid all his bad matchups. Um, so I don't think that's going anywhere overall. I think that's here to stay, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think for sure C9 can pull out Heimerdinger, T1 can pull out Heimerdinger. These teams are like known to play it, and I think they will. I think even Gen G might even play Heimerdinger bot. And I think for someone I forgot to mention that might take over the jungle meta and maybe the top meta is Poppy. She got an insane buff.
hmm
And she's really she does so much damage building full tank. So I think Poppy could be a thing. She's got a lot of great matchups in the jungle currently. Really good into Vi and Wukong, and this is overall very versatile, right? Peanut is at World or at MSI, so he kind of revolutionized the Poppy pick. So we'll see a bit of that. And I also think we're going to see a lot of Ezreal, even though it's like he only got a tiny buff. And I think we're just going to see it, right? I think we're going to see a couple bot bans. Ezreal is just really safe blind pick in a lot of people's minds. Um, I don't know, it's just one of those champions that's like some games is just freaking useless. Other games, I don't know, okay, he just lands every Q and he's the best ADC, I guess. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so honestly, I don't think we're gonna see a lot of Ezreal. We might see him once or twice. I still don't think the champion's very good. I think he's pretty weak right now, and especially because there's a lot of things right now that counter him in both AD carry and support. And unfortunately, I just thought of something that there's probably a good chance. I mentioned Senna TK. I think we're gonna see Senna Heimerdinger.
Fun.
Um,
yikes!
it's yeah, that's just gonna be
That doesn't
lollipops and
sound fun.
rainbows. I guess that's gonna be so entertaining to watch.
Oh god.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually don't think we're gonna see Heimerdinger just because, or sorry, Ezreal, because he loses to Aphelios, to Jinx. Kaisa can be playable if you want to go the kill lane with like a Nautilus or a Leona, who I'm also expecting to see. I just don't see it happening. Maybe if we get through a lot of bans and for some reason AD carry is still left up in second rotation, they might go Ezreal, but and again, it doesn't make sense to second rotation Ezreal just because he's generally like a blind pick and he does not feel blind pickable right now. The only champ that really feels like blind pickable is Jinx and also Aphelios, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be player dependent and less like matchup or like I think
That's fair.
Karzi, for example, is just gonna
hmm
pick Ezreal no matter the matchup. If he doesn't get like Jinx or whatever or Zeri, Karzi will just pick it. I also think Ruler, he'll just pick it because he'll just feel like it's fine to pick it there. So yeah, I mean, I think you're fair in the ADC matchups, but players will just want to pick it anyways.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Kind of like Lee
And
Sin too. It's like
yeah,
he may not be the strongest jungler, but it's freaking Lee Sin. You know what I mean? Players
yeah,
want to
like
play it.
owner will just pick it. Like
Exactly.
Vi and
Yeah, he'll
Wukong
he'll
or some.
pick it and then he'll get countered by Gragas Janna instantly and just want to die.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Poppy as well.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, Vi and Wukong are also pretty bad matchups for Lee Sin too, and you know what? He'll still pick it.
I
Yeah.
mean, to be fair,
Exactly.
jungle matchups don't matter as much,
Yeah.
just a lot of the time. But like, I mean, obviously there's some that are pretty unplayable. But like,
Yep.
can't wait to see like a first rotation Lee Sin into Gragas, Poppy, and Janna. It's like, ah, damn, unlucky, I
Yep.
guess.
Yeah, even Rakan throw in there, or Thresh, really hard to play, Lee Sin into those champs.
God, we
Um,
didn't even mention Rakan. Like that. That's a
yeah,
big
Rakan's gonna
thing.
be very high prio.
Good
Thresh is
God.
gonna
Xayah
still
Rakan for
be.
sure.
Yep,
Yeah.
Zaya's gonna be very high prio. I mean, Thresh is gonna
Lucian
still be.
Nami.
Oh
Okay,
God,
that's an
please
interesting
no.
one.
Yeah.
Will
What
we
are your
still
thoughts?
see Lucianami? That
Yes.
that
Yes, these guys can't give it up. It won't die.
No, because it's still broken.
the combo. I mean, it really fell out of playoffs. Just like I don't think
It
any
was.
region was really prioring it at all.
I don't think it was
Um,
prio, but if there were enough bans, it was still used.
It was almost every game in LCS finals, and like that weekend, it was picked or
it
banned
was
almost every game.
It was yeah, for LCS. I just didn't see it in LCK or LPL. It just didn't reach priority at all for those teams. But yeah, I can see LCS still picking it.
I think it's always going to be relevant just because of how uninteractively broken it is.
Yeah.
The Lucian just needs a rework. He needs his passive gutted and his ultimate gutted. They need to remove the bonus damage they added to his passive and his ultimate. I don't know why it's allowed to one shot people from 100 to 0 at this point.
No,
Yeah.
I got one more fun pick to mention that is not actually fun. I actually think it's one of the most broken strategies in the game. It's freaking Kane top. I know it sounds weird, but you just go Kane top and you don't even care that if you get your red orbs, you just only go blue Kane. And you one shot the wave and you roam around. You are impossible to kill, especially if you go the Gore Drinker Mermana
Mhm.
build. Like I do think it's kind of like it's really stupid. It's like it's very low skill, super high reward. It just takes a little bit to go. I mean, I don't think it's going to be like meta defining. I don't even think we'll see it more than once. But that one time we do see it, and if it does work out, everyone's going to be like, "This is the most stupid, unbalanced thing I've ever seen." It's very
Hmm.
popular in high elo in Europe. I know Drutut and Zookill or whatever. They play a lot of Kane top, and you don't even go TP. You just go ignite ghosts and you clear the wave, you base, and you just zoom right back to lane. It's like super uninteractive. It reminds me of like old Hecarim top with home guards. Like
Oh
you
yeah.
just don't even interact with your opponent, and you scale into oblivion. So that would be interesting. Also, I do think Scion and Malphite. I think they're gonna fall lower on the priority. They're still gonna be up there and they're still gonna be played, but they were being played almost every single game. I think they're gonna fall off. I think there's going to be a lot of top laners that are just willing to play Jace, Gwen, Jax, and you're just not going to want to play Scion or Malphite into those guys. So I think we're going to go into more bruisery, fightery top lane.
Well, that's a little more exciting, at least.
Yeah, I think it's
Instead of
more
seeing
exciting.
a
Yeah,
tank versus tank matchup.
we'll see Fiora too and stuff like
And that's why,
that. And,
like, if
yeah.
if that's the case, then you might see more of the roaming mids because you're trying to either snowball top or bot,
Oh
and
yeah. I mean,
you know what I
Ari
mean.
is one of the strongest mid laners right
There you
now.
go.
Lissandra's
Yeah.
pretty decent. LeBlanc's gonna see play. So yeah, I think roaming mid
Hmm.
is very possible. Like
Yeah.
Victor, Oriana, Azir stuff. Like I think that's gonna be probably like I don't know, like next
Yeah.
tier of strength. Like people aren't gonna really prio that too much.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me just open it up then to any final thoughts or anything else that you guys want to. Is there anything else you want to mention about MSI before we begin? I'm excited. It's been too much of a lull. Thank goodness we had the Azale interview to get us through this lull of no league games. But any last thoughts you guys want to mention?
Yeah, my last thoughts would be just pay attention to the excitement level of the tournament, how you feel about the matches. I think the format is great for like what we could work with this year, and I think that it's going to increase the enjoyment of the games. Just like how LEC's new format like made it a lot more exciting because there's just
Mm-hmm.
things that were more meaningful. This is going to be a big shift in my mind. So unless the teams just don't show up and play like crap because the meta's bad or something, I think it's going to be one of the most exciting MSI, actually the most exciting MSI on paper. So I
Oh
can't wait.
yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah,
Anybody
I'm
else?
really excited for this too. I think play-ins is, I mean, usually play-ins is sometimes a snooze, sometimes it's interesting, but like for the most part, play-ins is usually boring until like the last best of to get into the main stage. I think play-ins is gonna be interesting for the most part, like all the way through. Um, just because of the best of threes, right? So I'm really excited, and I'm obviously insanely excited for main stage because we're gonna see so many different matchups, and we're gonna get to a double elim situation, so we can
Yeah.
get some repeat matchups. We can get teams who falter and maybe make mistakes, but get another chance to prove themselves. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is gonna be so fun, guys. Like I think
Yeah.
that double elim is just the way to go for our international tournaments, and it always should have been like this. Yeah, and I hope it stays.
Yeah. Okay. And then my last thought, and I just really wanted to quickly get your thoughts on, this is the first MSI that they're allowing co-streaming. What do you guys think about? I mean, honestly, I think that's pretty cool. I don't know exactly who's going to be co-streaming, but I imagine if there was a double lift co-stream, I would definitely tune into that. But
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea overall. I mean, you guys agree or thoughts?
It's interesting. My nuance on this is I agree that it's a good idea, and it's just gonna get more eyeballs, net eyeballs.
Mhm.
My issue with it is that I actually think the MSI broadcast has been pretty good. Like
Yeah.
it's not like other regions where I'm like, I need a co-stream or I'm going to lose my mind, right? So with certain combos and certain teams, right?
Mhm.
So I don't think it's as necessary for the enjoyment, but I think it's really good for the overall viewership because it just gets more eyeballs and you get more choice, which isn't bad, right? You can still
That's true.
enjoy the main broadcast. I just thought it was surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the co-streams. I mean that's the main way I actually watch things if I ever watch something
Mhm.
live. And if I ever like am catching games and I'll check out like Sneaky's VODs or Double S VODs or whatever. Yeah, I think it's really enjoyable. I also think like the in-between stuff, it has gotten better over time. I don't know what the in-between stuff is going to be like for MSI, but the in-between stuff for the co-streams is usually super fun. Like in-between stuff is like hit or miss for LCS, for example. But for the co-stream, Meteos is like going through the VODs, he's rewinding,
Mhm.
he's talking to Sneaky and being like just playing something over and over again and like trying to get like really deep analysis on it. Like that stuff is what I live for. Like I wish MSI could do that where, you know, it might sound annoying or something, but like, having a former pro player just look over a play 10, 15 times and give
Mhm.
different thoughts and then discover something new in it, like that is the most enjoyable part for me. So I am excited for co-streams too. And it's
Sweet.
also hilarious, right? They just say some
They are. Yeah, for
very
sure.
interesting stuff, yes.
Okay, well, finally, I just want to give a special welcome to all the new people that have come through Discord and new subs. And, I know most of y'all probably came through the Azale interview. So welcome to the community. And I'm sure that during these games, we'll try to set up some live watch parties in the Discord. So, if you're ever around and want to watch the games while we're watching, then definitely check us out. And if you're not on the Discord yet, then I want to invite you there because we love talking about League and the LCS, and it's just overall good vibes, good people, and it's fun to chat League. So that'll wrap it up. Again, thank you to Kevin, Mitchell, and Alastair for always sharing their wise thoughts. But until next time, enjoy your climb on the Rift. Try not to be too toxic, and we'll see you all on the next episode. Peace.